In this video, we are going to follow a day in the life, the writing routine of a famous author. And because I'm currently working on an epic fantasy, I feel like it's only fitting to follow one of the most famous, prolific, epic fantasy authors of the current day, and also one of my favorite authors of all time, Brandon Sanderson. He is most well known for the Mistborn series as well as the Stormlight Archive, which fits into this larger world of the Cosmere, but he really gained a lot of notoriety, especially in the fantasy genre reading landscape, when he finished the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan after that author passed away. We are going to try and harness some of his amazing productivity to get a bunch of work done today. So, this is what he said about his passion for writing on a question page on his website. I write to relax. That's what I do for fun. If I go on vacation, I usually want to go on vacation to get away from everyone so I can write. It's just what I love to do. So for him, writing is not just a job, it's his passion, it's what he likes to do. He's writing prolifically, not to make a lot of money, but just because he needs to. He just loves it so much. And I just think that's so inspiring for people like me who want to be published authors, to see someone in such a position of power and success basically doing what I want to do, and he still retains so much of the joy of writing. There is also a secondary reason I really want to do his writing routine, and that's because he writes extremely late. So he is a night owl, he sleeps in the morning. He doesn't get to writing till midday, which is why now is the time for me to do it, because my sleep schedule has been super off in the last couple of months. I've been trying to fix it. I did about a couple of weeks ago, and then now I've gone back into staying up late again. So I figured before I try a second round of fixing my sleeping schedule, I'm going to try his routine while I can actually stay up really late. Brandon Sanderson writes in 2 blocks of time. So he wakes up kind of late morning, and then he'll write from noon or 1 for 4 hours until like 4 or 5. And then he has another 4 hour block after his kids go to bed from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. So I'm very excited to report that I'm going to be sleeping in and hopefully extremely well rested to start this challenge.
I wrote a bunch of bad books before I started writing good ones. This turned out to be really good for my own personal psychology. I learned good habits. I learned to keep on working at things. I learned how to revise kind of the hard way. I was not good at it when I started. And I count all those years writing books and slowly, incrementally getting better with teaching me good habits that I just maintain today.
It is now just past noon, so I'm going to sit down and start my first writing session block for the day. I wasn't able to sleep in as much as I wanted. I've never really been able to sleep in that much, even when I go to bed late. So I woke up around 8:39. I was trying to go back to sleep, wasn't really working. So I took my time making breakfast, and then I did a workout and then showered, because I really wanted to get some of the like physical energy out, because I don't have like a walking pad or anything, but Brandon Sanderson sometimes, just to get some movement in his day, will write as he's walking, like a pretty slow pace. But since that's not really an option for me and I'm just gonna be sitting in chairs and couches all day, I figured good to get a little movement in first. So without further ado, we're gonna sit down and write for 4 hours. And that feels really daunting. I don't really write for more than an hour or two at a time, sometimes even less, just because I really lock in when I'm writing. And so as soon as I like fall out of that flow state, super intensity, it's hard for me to like keep going and get back into it. But this is what Brandon Sanderson does. So he doesn't really use any like big motivational strategies in like writing sprints or anything like that, or like little breaks in that 4 hours. It seems like he just sits down and writes, which is really simple, but at the same time, I feel like that's actually going to be quite difficult for me. But I'm doing this writing routine to try and push myself and try something new. So I will sit down in front of my computer for 4 hours, but we'll see how much writing actually gets done.
About a 4 hour session of writing is really good for me. You got this like hour of spin up time, and near the end, you're starting to spin down and run out of steam. And if I try to push that too long, either one of those sides will stretch out. And what I'm really looking for is that time in the middle that's really effective. And I found for me about 4 hours gives me a good 2 hours of really efficient writing time in the middle. And so I try to schedule my life around having 2 of those.
I'm now halfway through the first block of writing. We're like 2.5 hours into it, and I'm starting to feel a little bit tired of doing this. I only really have a good 2 hours in me, but we're gonna push through. I think what does help, and I feel pretty confident I can keep going, is that I haven't been doing a lot of first drafting, so I actually went a couple chapters back and I've been reworking it because I feel like I went through it a little too fast, so I'm adding in other details. And then also, I've been thinking a lot about this one character and their personality, so I'm going through and kind of changing things for that a little bit. And part of the reason I decided to do that is with 8 hours of potential writing to do today, there's going to be so much time for first drafting. So, knowing I'm setting all this time aside, it makes me more willing to spend time on other stuff first instead of trying to get a lot of new words down before allowing myself to go back and do some edits. So, that's kind of nice. But I've now changed my location from working at the desk to going on the couch because I'm hoping that a change of scenery will help me get through to the end of this 4 hour writing session.
I'm not one that's afraid of being plagiarized, right? Authors develop their own voices and their own ways of doing things. And if you give two authors the same concept, they will come up with wildly different books. The way that human creativity works is recombination. We remix. That's what we're really good at. We don't come up with a new wholesale creature. We put a horn on a horse and look at that. That's cool. That's like how we create, just on a fundamental level. We don't imagine a color that we've never seen.
The final hour of writing in that 4 hour block was tough. I was tired, honestly. I kind of want to take a nap, but we did it. We wrote for 4 hours. I did have a lunch break about an hour in, so maybe I wrote more for like 3 hours and 45 minutes. But that was crazy. I got through the 3 previous chapters, and so I'm feeling pretty good about just drafting in the next 4 hour chunk. Since I've been doing a lot of revising, I haven't been getting a lot of words written, though I feel really good about the progress that I've made so far today. But I figured I'd share word count anyways, since it's Brandon Sanderson's favorite way to motivate himself. Although I've been leaning away from word count recently just because I find that it doesn't put me in the right headspace to really like take my time and enjoy the writing. But for you, I will look at my word count. So today, there's a lot of stuff I added and a lot of stuff I took away. And then I also started to do a little bit of drafting in the last like 15 minutes of this writing session. And so we had a net positive of 1,080 words so far today. So I think Brandon Sanderson writes on average or strives to write 2,000 words a day, which I don't quite understand because if he's writing for 8 hours, how do you not write thousands upon thousands of words? So I'm sure I'm going to hit 2,000 words today, if not more, with the next 4 hours. But I'm not going to think about that. I've got a long time until then. And Brandon Sanderson is also very particular about keeping his evenings writing free. So to be able to have good work life balance, he has instituted that from when he finishes, so around 4 or 5, to the time like his kids go to bed, so around 10, he doesn't think about writing, and that time really is reserved for his family. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just step away and pretend like I'm not daunted by the fact that I still have to write for 4 more hours tonight.
This organization, these kind of siloing, putting a firewall between family and writing time was really essential to me. Because if I hadn't done it, what I found early in my career, before I'd figured this out, is that I would spend all my time with my family thinking about my books. Writing can really just take over your life like that. And by putting these kind of firm firewalls in place, it's helped me really have a more solid family life, which has in turn made my whole life feel better and more stable.
Okay, it is time for round 2. Oh, do I think I'm going to hit the 4 hours a second time today when the first 4 hour block was so tough? I don't know. We shall see. I am in my PJs, so I'm nice and comfortable. I made myself a cup of hot tea. This is Earl Grey with some like fizzed up, warmed up milk. So that's going to be delicious, and I expect I'm going to make a couple more cups throughout the next 4 hours. I can't get that number out of my head. 4 more hours. But I have to say, I think it really did help taking that break. I do feel a little bit of that rejuvenation of like excited to get back into it. And it was honestly really easy to block out the writing and all that kind of stuff in that time. Like, it actually let me spend time with like my family and do chill activities. Whereas I feel like I often think a lot about my story, and I almost wonder if I'm thinking so much about my story because I'm not actually writing, versus when I'm actually writing my story, it's like coming out of me. Maybe this is a sign that I should be writing more and daydreaming less about it. But yeah, whether I make it to the end of this routine is as much of a question for you as it is for me. So I'm going to pull up Scrivener and start writing. It is going to be some new drafting. And to be honest, I'm not feeling super confident about it because I don't feel the central conflict. Like, there's a couple things I have put into this chapter of like, oh, we need to accomplish these things, but they feel like more like secondary things I'd put into a chapter, and nothing feels focal. Nothing feels like the thing we have to do. And I wonder if I just need to find it. So I might just have to like keep writing and see what comes of it. But I'm also contemplating skipping forward a few chapters to a pretty critical event and then maybe working my way backwards to see what needs to be in that gap, because I do have a tendency of just like writing without actually getting to a point if I'm not careful, which is why outlining is really important for me. But we'll see what I decide to do. 4 hours is a very long time, so there'll be a lot of time to try things out. The first hour is completed, and I'm now on to my second cup of tea. It's actually going really well so far. I have just really been straight drafting, and I have been working on the chapter I wasn't so sure about, and I actually moved it into a different direction, and I've tried to add a little bit of tension with another device. I don't know, maybe it's like disjointed where like the first part of the chapter and the second part like aren't quite telling one like cohesive story or arc. But it's early days. I don't know if this is gonna have to change around or not, but for now I'm really liking where this is going, and I'm excited for this specific scene and to get my main character, to meet this other character. We are 2 hours in, which marks the halfway point of the second writing session. So we have 2 hours left, and I'm seriously starting to fade. I'm really enjoying the writing. It's good, but I just really wish I could just go to bed and do it tomorrow, but we're staying strong. I think this hour is going to be the harder of the next two because, at least in the last hour, I'm going to be counting down a little bit more, whereas right now the ending just seems so far away. We are on the final hour of this writing routine, writing challenge. Honestly, this has been more of a challenge than a routine. I cannot believe that we are about to enter the 8th hour of writing. We have also just reached 4,500 words written today. I really like the way I finished that previous chapter that I was working on. It leaves on a really fun cliffhanger that I then get to resolve in the following chapter. And I guess I have another hour to figure out where this chapter is going to go next. So we're just going to get right back to it. And I'm not as tired as I expected to be tonight, partly because I have been staying up late recently. And I think while my brain is like chugging along with this, I can kind of push aside some of the body tired for a while, but I think I'm going to crash hard at some point.
All I know is that I generally keep falling into the same sleep schedule. I tried to get off of it when I was first married, and my wife was not thrilled by the idea of me going to bed at 4 or 5 and her getting up at 6 for school. For a few months, I tried my best, and it was just miserable. I did not adjust. And eventually she's like, okay, just go back to your schedule. This is miserable for both of us.
We have done it. We have hit the end of the writing routine. I don't want to trick you. I have been writing a lot slower this last hour, but for the last like 5-10 minutes, I just like really want to lock in and finish strong. But I have definitely gotten really tired. The final word count for today is a net positive of 5,473 words. That is pretty incredible to me. And I mean, what was I really expecting? Anytime you spend 8 hours doing anything, it's gonna be a lot. But I'm really tired. I want to go to sleep. So while Brandon Sanderson usually takes the time between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. for himself, playing video games, listening to a podcast, that sort of thing. I'm not doing that. I would rather just sleep. That's what I want to do for myself. So I'm going to do that, and we'll regroup and have a little bit of a concluding thoughts in the morning. Last night literally felt like a fever dream. I was tired, but I was so in the story. I literally felt like I was watching a movie in my head. And I feel like this is like the inspiration and the drive I need to start picking up my pace with this story, because I feel like I'm now just getting into like the flow of Act 2, really seeing what this character's arc is really supposed to be. But on to the real question. Do I want to be using the same writing routine as Brandon Sanderson moving forward? And there's parts of it I did like, but in general, I just don't think 4-hour writing blocks work for me. Like, that would lead me to burnout really, really quickly. I enjoy just spending so much time in the story. I think it just goes to show that if you spend 8 hours of your day dedicated to writing, you're inevitably going to write a lot. It makes total sense why Brandon Sanderson is so prolific, and I just don't think I have the stamina for that at the moment. Maybe one day, if I do become like a full-time published author, I could get away with that, but for now, with my little amateur brain, 2 hours is good enough for me. Thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed my attempt. This was definitely more of like a challenge, but I'm really happy with the results, and I'm feeling motivated to trying some other famous author writing routines. So if you have any suggestions for fantasy authors, let me know, or else I'll see you in the next video.